Hurrah, hurrah for the 2nd of September. It's spring, and look at this. The buds are ready to pop. This tree has been growing in the ground here for about 5 years. You can see all the little buds are ready to pop. You can see one there, down there. So I think what we're going to do is dig this tree out and then see if we can repot it. Right, there we've dug the tree out. It was planted in that colander. You can see how these roots have grown out of the sides of the colander, and once we've cleaned that up, there will be plenty of roots to let this tree grow. And I'm not sure whether this is a birch or a beech, but let's try and look at the leaves and get some sort of identification. So that's what the leaves look like. They're about 7-8 centimeters long, sort of roundish in shape, with a slight serrated edge on the edges. The bark is very interesting. If I take a close-up on the bark, you can see it's green with little white speckles, and as we go down the bark down here, that looks like a black beech to me. Well, we will see once we've looked at the identification and we've swirled it around and seen which is going to be the front of the tree. We will have a look later once we get on with it. Thanks. After looking at this tree very carefully, it goes pretty straight from the base, and then there's some nice curves going back, but I noticed that all the branches are growing out here to the right. So looking at this tree now, I propose to make a windswept out of it, and let's see how we progress. Okay, now that all the deadwood's been cut off the tree, we can sort of see the general shape and the leaning. And if we turn it slightly that way, you can see where all the branches are going. And this way into the sun, a little bit of the sun, you can see the direction where most of the branches are going. So I think a windswept is definitely the way to go with this. We're now going to clean up the roots and repot it into a different pot, and then we'll see what happens after that. Right, the theory of planting a tree in the ground in a colander is that all the fine roots will go through the colander into the ground and it'll thicken up, but it will leave sufficient roots inside the colander for us to cut all these outside roots off and then plant it into a bonsai pot. Let's see if that's going to work. Right, we're going to tidy up all these roots on the outside, and then we'll come back and look again. Right, now we can see with the soil cleaned off how many roots actually came through the colander, and there's quite a lot of them. Quite a lot of them. You can see the thick one over there, another very thick one there. Right, so now I'm going to cut all the roots off on the outside of this colander, and then we'll look further. Right, that's all the roots been pruned off on the outside of the colander, and we'll now remove the tree and see what the roots look like once we've cleaned up the root ball. Well, we've taken it out of the colander now, and you can see the root ball is absolutely stunning around this tree. So now we're going to clean it up and repot it. So after pruning the roots, just show you the roots have been cut back now completely. We put it into some water because we don't want the roots to dry out when you plant your tree and die. So now to prepare the pot. Right, so that's what it looks like when the mesh is firm in the pot from the top, and from the bottom you can see it sticking through there, and you can see this pot was an Elna Besta pot made in 2002. This pot was broken and I've reconditioned it to look like it does today. And I don't mind reconditioning old pots when I'm using them as training pots for first time repotting from the soil, from the ground. So let's see where we go from here. So these wires over here are tire wires, so we put them in from the bottom, right, and now we've pulled the wires through, and you can see the wires there and here for fastening the tree once we've planted it out. Right, our growing mix that we're using today is 50% lacquer and 50% stone. There's a nice close-up. You can see it's very loose and gravelly, and that's what we use to plant here in the Southern Cape. Okay, so that's the tree in the pot now, leaning to the left. You can see the windswept. We'll just take it around that you can see. Obviously it's still going to be cut back shorter, but this is the first planting. This is obviously the back. There's not much movement that you can see from this side, but when you look at it from the front, I think that gives you a much better idea of where the tree is going to go in the future.